Good evening, everyone. This is a public meeting of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for June 23rd, 2014. Tonight we have petitions that are under continuances and also new business. And as a reminder to everyone, if you plan on speaking on behalf of a petition, if you could please sign in at the podium with your name and address. And if you have any electronic devices, could you please turn them off so there are no disruptions? Okay, our first petition is under continuances. This is ZB 2014-21. The applicant is McDonald's. The petition is a special permit and variance. The property is located at 803 Rogers Street, and the petition is a special permit for reduced parking, illuminated sign, and drive-through lanes pursuant to section 6.1.44, 6.239, and 12.4, and a variance to increase the size and height of a sign and for reduced width for angled parking lots pursuant to section 6.11, 6.228B, and 6.328C. Is there a representative of McDonald's?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Richard Balmer, Nobis Engineering on behalf of McDonald's. The application before you came in concurrently with the next item on your agenda, and I would like to speak a little bit in general about the combined proposal, and then I'll address the McDonald's proposal
Yeah, I made a
specifically.
decision. We're going to take the two separately, but if you want to, I know I watched the planning board, your presentation there, but I know they're two kind of commingled or tied together, so, but we're going to entertain each one separately.
I understand.
Okay,
I
thank you.
understand that.
Yep.
So the property for the McDonald's, may I place a board on the easel, please? There's an overall site plan here that shows both the Hannaford site and the McDonald's site. The McDonald's site is highlighted in green to show the location. And it also specifically then also shows the irregular nature of the McDonald's site. And that's really the genesis of the existing cross easement agreement that exists between the two parcels cooperating together. But it also is the genesis and the reason for some of the relief that we are requesting tonight in both cases. The second board, in a little bit more detail, is the overall McDonald's site plan in detail, and again, we have with the same orientation of the property, and you can then see in green the highlighted irregular nature of the property itself. There's an existing cross easement agreement for access and other elements between the two properties of mutual consideration. The specifics of the McDonald's proposal is as part of McDonald's regular redevelopment of their sites. The proposal is to demolish the existing restaurant and rebuild it on the site, turning it 90 degrees, and by so doing, they will be able to introduce the double drive-through lane that is now common to their new stores. The piece of history as recently as I think 2000, 50% of McDonald's business came through the drive-through. Today, that's closer to 75%. So they have a significantly reduced need in terms of actual physical parking and seats in the restaurant, but by going through the double drive-through, they're increasing efficiency of the customers who are looking for that convenience. So specifically on the McDonald's approval, we are asking for the approval of a drive-through establishment serving a restaurant pursuant to Section 12.4G1, and also including the associated directional signs, menu boards, and the ordering kiosks, all of which are eliminated. We are requesting a reduction in parking to 43 spaces total, which is about 1 space per 118 square feet in the proposed restaurants. The strict reading of the parking requirement and the zoning requirements would require 102 spaces, or 1 space for every 50 square feet. There are notes in the zoning ordinance with respect to parking that give the board the ability to reduce parking where it's warranted. We believe this is one of those cases. The 43 parking spaces that we are proposing is consistent with McDonald's history of use throughout their system in terms of how many spaces they believe that they need to handle their employees and the customers who will actually enter the restaurant for indoor seating. And then we're also looking for a special permit for the illuminated directional signs, menu boards, ordering kiosk, and freestanding signs. With respect to the freestanding sign, we are proposing to relocate the existing sign, which is currently at the intersection of Rogers Street and Main Entrance Drive to the shopping center, and we are looking to relocate that to the corner of Rogers Street and Lowell Research Center Access Drive. The reason for that is that the main shopping center entrance, where both the Hannaford existing sign and the existing McDonald's freestanding sign are today, is a right-in, right-out only. And what McDonald's as well as Hannaford have seen here is that there's inadequate signage for traffic coming northbound into the city on Rogers Street to recognize that when they get to the light at Research Center Access Drive, that that's the place they should turn left to enter the shopping center to get to McDonald's and to Hannaford. So what we're looking to do for the McDonald's site is to relocate that freestanding sign and put it in the best location so that we can eliminate what traffic all too often is doing. They miss the sign, they go past the signal, or they miss the signal in terms of turning left because there is no sign. They think they can turn left at the entrance to the shopping center, find that they cannot. They have to proceed farther north, make a U-turn, and come back around to come back to reach the shopping center. So relocating that sign is a traffic flow and safety issue. And we saw support from the city traffic engineer for that proposal. The additional relief that we're asking for, that the existing sign exceeds 30 square feet, so we're looking to relocate that. The existing sign is approximately 84 square feet. And we're asking to increase the height of that sign to accommodate an additional directional sign panel that's the subject of the second application here this evening. So the existing sign height is about 27 feet. We need relief for anything exceeding 20 feet. we're looking to add just 3.5 feet to that height here in this particular case. The last piece of relief that we are requesting is with respect to the drive lanes. Two of the parking aisles on the plan are 60-degree parking, which would normally require a 20-foot drive aisle. We are requesting relief to 18 feet in this particular case. And again, it's driven by the north-south dimensions of the property when it's all said and done. If we were required to make all those two lanes that we're looking for that relief on the full 20 feet, it would move the northernmost parking spaces and drive aisle, which is the primary exit for the drive-through lane, far enough to the north that it would dictate that cars essentially looking to make a U-turn to come back out towards Rogers Street from what's shown as driveway 2 on the plan would have to cross into the opposing lane to do that move successfully. So by getting a little bit of relief on the drive aisle for the angled parking, we're able to better accommodate the turning movements that cars will need there. And then I'm trying to think, I think I hit everything here. So that's essentially the description of the proposal. And we believe that the proposed plan is an improvement over existing conditions, provides an opportunity for improved landscaping through the whole area, improved traffic flow, not only for the two business entities here on the site, but also improved traffic for the whole Roger Street corridor. The other benefits in total associated with this plan are included improved stormwater treatment. Right now, there's no stormwater treatment or very limited stormwater treatment for this property. Our proposal is to take most of the runoff and put it into a subsurface recharge facility and recharge the groundwater. Right now, a portion of the runoff drains directly to Rogers Street into the combined sewer system there, so we'll be able to completely eliminate that flow. In addition, the current restaurant does not have a grease interceptor on a sanitary sewer connection. This rebuild will enable us to bring the restaurant up to code and install an appropriately sized grease interceptor on the sanitary sewer system, which will also have benefits to the city's system. After we made the original submission back in, I guess it's March now, we continued a few times, we did make a couple of modifications to the plan at the request of the underlying property owner for Hannaford, which included relocating the trash enclosure from this location to this location here in the corner. And that keeps the trash enclosure on the site. We showed that to the city traffic engineer and presented that to the planning board. The planning board voted to approve the plan with several conditions, most of which were relating to increased landscaping, which we're able to accommodate, and a couple of modifications to the surface for some of the pedestrian crosswalk surfaces from asphalt to concrete to improve visibility of those. And then finally, conditioned on resubmitting final plans to staff, primarily the city engineer, to address some miscellaneous detailed comments on erosion control plans, snow storage, and maintenance of the recharge system, which we've agreed to do, and we'll take care of those submittals prior to applying for the building permit. That's essentially the summary of our presentation. I'd be happy to go into some additional detail or address some questions from the board as it relates to the McDonald's petition on 803 Roger Street.
So I guess the first thing I'll start with, since you're reducing the current number of parking spaces pretty significantly, I would assume that McDonald's has figured out a way to move traffic that are in the queues that much faster.
That is correct, and that's the entire purpose of what's known as the double drive-through or the side-by-side drive-through, and it increases efficiency moving through the drive-through lanes so that they can essentially be filling 2 orders at the same time inside the restaurant and then accommodating and keeping things moving through the drive-through lane.
Do you know how many employees are
15 maximum at the maximum shift.
at the maximum shift?
That's correct. So their formula is based on 15 employees in the maximum shift, and then the other, whatever the number is, it gets to 43, 28 or so total in terms of how many vehicles they would traditionally see for
That has to be
seating.
factored into the 43, correct?
That is correct.
And what's the number for that? Is it 15 as the maximum?
I'm sorry?
Is 15 the maximum of the 43?
15 is the maximum for the employees, so then the total of 43
Right.
would
No,
say
I'm just saying 15 is part of that 43.
that is correct.
So it's obviously it's a good chunk of the reduction, just for your employees.
That is correct. Yeah, my personal observations in looking at this site, as well as some of the other McDonald's restaurants, is even at peak hour, there's not that many cars on the lot.
And as far as peak hours, what are the peak hours?
I would defer to the McDonald's folks, but essentially I believe that would be mostly that time frame from about 4:30 to about 7 p.m. Pardon me? And then a similar crunch in the morning at breakfast time.
Is there a similar site in the area that has the same type of setup?
Yes, there's one in Plain Street here in Lowell. That project was done not quite 4 years ago.
Yep.
That also has the side-by-side drive-through configuration.
Yeah. Joe, if I recall, I think that came before us, correct?
That's correct.
Yep. Hence the question, I was curious if it was the same type of plan per se.
That is correct. I think the
Footprint
footprint
or
in that
model,
particular
yeah.
case, they did not do a tear down and rebuild. They mostly just refurbished the interior and exterior of the existing building in that particular case. In this case, the existing site configuration did not accommodate the side-by-side drive-through. And so the discussions between McDonald's and Hannaford enabled some adjustments to the cross easement agreement to enable some of this parking to take place physically on the adjacent property.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add at this point?
No, sir. I'm just here to answer.
I'm going to open it
address
up to the
questions.
public. Is there anyone here like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor. Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Going to open it up to the board. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one question and a couple of comments. So I think you might not know the number of cars that would actually queue up in each lane during peak times.
Well, the zoning requirements call for a minimum of 10, and I believe this site accommodates probably closer to, certainly more than 10. It's probably more like 14 to 16 because the length of both lanes.
Okay. And just a couple of comments. I agree with what you said as far as how confusing the current layout is in that area, because I think most people do go through that light and continue on and then realize they can't get into Hannaford. I've also, I mean, I'm sure there aren't too many people that do this, but I have seen people coming out of the right turn only lane and then making a left across 4 lanes on Rogers Street, or also people doing the same thing when they're coming from downtown towards the site. So I think it will improve the traffic flow and safety by alerting people to the fact that they can make that left on Research Center Drive and get into both businesses. So, and I think that was it. Let me just double check. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mike Van.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the applicant, I want to say thank you for this detailed package you put together. It's very detailed, so I appreciate that. And, you know, anytime where a company or a organization can improve its infrastructure totally, complete overhaul, inside and out, landscaping, it's always a good thing. I mean, I know you're losing parking spots, but you did say that most of your clients or customers are mostly drive-through customers, so, you know, you're accommodating the needs of the clients. So overall, I think this is a good project, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Van. Dennis.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I echo Van's points here. It's a great opportunity for us to get a better product on that street. You are being, are you going to be LEED certified, or what, is there a LEED component here at all?
The store will certainly be much more sustainable. McDonald's doesn't typically go through the LEED certification process on their new construction pieces, but certainly in terms of energy code, water usage, all of the HVAC, air quality systems are completely redone in a situation like this. On the site development side, certainly providing the parking that they need without providing it in excess is consistent with sustainable design, and the stormwater improvements that we're able to incorporate in this make a substantial improvement into the sustainability of this particular site.
Great. I'm trying to understand the site plan a little bit. It originally had 2 dumpster locations, and now I'm seeing on your board here that there's only 1 dumpster location. Is that correct?
No, there was only 1 dumpster location in the original submittal.
I'm looking at option.
I'm not sure if I'm addressing that question properly.
I'm looking at option 10C in the packet you provided.
Oh, okay.
It
That
shows
was an
2
exhibit
dumpster.
that was provided between McDonald's and Hannaford as a conceptual discussion at the time to essentially get buy-in or agreement between the parties. And we showed essentially 2 different options at that point in time.
Makes sense.
We've now settled on, we initially thought we'd settled on the 1 and found that we needed to move it and put it in the current location.
And so it's just moved to one of the options basically in that
correct.
10C, which makes some sense. I agree. The quantity of people that are being designed for the seating area, is the restaurant designed for 40 people in the seating area, or do you have an idea as to how many are
I
going to be able
believe
to seat in the dining area?
the number of seats is something on the way of 80 total. I have to double check, but the physical seats in the restaurant are in the 70 to 80 range.
And so you're planning on a fairly large dining room then, but you're providing
It's
cars.
it's pretty consistent with the dining room that's there now, in terms of number of seats.
Why wouldn't you downsize it if you don't have that many people using the dining room? At least you're not providing cars. You're only providing 28 cars.
This particular restaurant sees a fairly good amount of foot traffic coming down from the park at different points in time
Okay,
that we need to accommodate as well, is
Okay,
my
so you-
understanding.
so that's for foot traffic. Okay. All right, I guess that makes sense. Is there any statistics that you have that kind of help us see some science behind the reduction? It's a significant reduction in parking, so we're just kind of going on your,
That being said, I understand that, and it's not as much of a reduction as the zoning ordinance gives you the authority to do. You could, if you wanted, reduce it down to 20-something spaces, if I've got my numbers correct. The existing parking that was in the original approval and as shown on the combined site plan between the two properties was in the same 43 to 47 spaces. So we're providing a fairly consistent amount. The anomaly here is that there are about another, probably easy 20 spaces or so that, from a bird's eye view, feel like they're part of
Yeah, I
the existing McDonald's site, but are actually physically counted towards the Hannaford approval that dates back to 2000. And again, we'll talk about those adjustments here. So we're basically reallocating those 40 or so, 43 spaces on the property.
just like to switch gears here to signage. Joe, what is allowed for signage heights in this area if they were to, put a new sign in or something?
20 feet is the maximum height that's allowed.
Okay, so, and that's partly based on the type of speed that's going on Rogers Street and the traffic flow and whatnot, I guess.
It's actually 20 feet throughout the whole city. Our sign code requires just 20 feet flat for all freestanding signage. Whether or not it should be looked at differently, it's a good point to bring up based on speeds of different roads.
So why isn't, right now you're at 27 feet.
The existing sign's at 27 feet. We're asking for the additional 3 feet, 6 inches of height in order to accommodate the additional directional sign panel that's the subject of the other proposal. And in order to keep the bottom of that additional sign panel at 8 feet, which is consistent with the existing sign that's out there, so that we're providing adequate sight distance for traffic underneath of the sign to see oncoming traffic from the adjacent streets. So we're basically looking to just jack up a little bit the existing sign that's there in order to accommodate the additional directional sign panel.
It seems like you could just downscale the sign and still stay within the 27 feet, so I'm not sure where the need is to go, but beyond the 27 that you already have, which is 7 feet above what's allowed. And so you kind of, you could just downscale the whole thing by 15% and it would fit within 27 feet. Follow what I'm saying? I'm not sure why we're pushing this up higher. We could, the traffic flow isn't going.
Primarily, we were taking the existing sign, adding, from an efficiency standpoint, putting it to another location and raising it up to add another sign that's just consistent with it. So the top two panels, say McDonald's, you've got the arches and the existing signboard, that's already there. And we're basically just going to take that same structure and put the additional Hanover directional signage underneath of it.
So you're not rebuilding anything?
That's correct.
These are existing signs that you're reusing, repurposing?
That's correct, with the exception of the additional
Hanover.
directional sign.
So are they LED?
They're internally illuminated. I don't know if, I doubt if the existing signs are LED. I frankly don't have the answer to that particular question.
Probably not. Okay. Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad to see you here tonight with no further continuances. It's always a pleasure to get petitions on the docket. As it relates to reduction in space, I thought the same thing, that some of those configured space were shared with Hannaford. It is on a bus route. The amount of foot traffic that comes from the athletic complex, the malls and such, are there as well. Just give me an explanation on the max shift. Is there, could you just define that term, what you mean by that? What shift that would be?
In terms of the maximum number of employees,
You said there was 15 employees on your max shift. What time of day would that be?
maximum shift would probably be the evening. So there's two of them, so, yeah, breakfast hour and then it's
There's a
the
set
dinner
amount of
hour.
employees that work each shift, station to station, and that's consistent 7 days a week?
Well, there's probably there is some variance depending on, Sunday morning may not be as busy as Tuesday morning.
Within five bodies. It's not gonna, it doesn't vary 10, 20 extra people.
That's my understanding is, it's not so huge of a footprint. If they needed to bring 5 more employees, I'm not sure where they'd put them.
Right, okay. I think it's a great plan. I mean, the increase in the stormwater value, the sanitary grease trap on site, the runoff to Roger Street, being very familiar with that neighborhood, that runoff is, it's river-like at sometimes when the weather really comes at us, so, taking that into consideration and, having the corporation, really look at this in tune, bodes well with me. And as it relates to reconfiguring that right-hand turn coming out, I wish it was a year and a half ago, as I was hit by a car coming out that way. So that kind of bodes well. So overall, it's a very well-presented plan. I wish you the best of luck. I did have my questions answered on the options on the dumpster. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. Dennis's question about the signage regarding the height, I was going to ask the same thing. So you pretty much answered the question. And I know you had mentioned that 20 feet is the current zoning, but you're currently at 27, or have been. That sign's been there since?
Mid-90s,
Yeah, went up.
if not before.
Okay. So pretty much we're talking 3 feet or less just to increase that sign, correct?
For a safety standpoint
Yep.
relative
Yep.
to the
Okay.
visual underneath of it.
Yeah. As far as both the special permit and the variance, Joe, are we taking one vote or separate votes on this?
It'd be helpful to take 2 separate votes, one for the special permits that were requested and one for the variances that were requested.
Well, I think based on the board's comments and your presentation this evening and the answers that you had to any of the questions that the board members have, I believe for both the special permit and variance, the applicant has met either the prerequisites or the criteria to meet both of those. So with that said, could I have a motion for the special permit, please? Just 1 second. Joe, generally we talk about planning board conditions. In this case, are we including those or not including those?
It'd be helpful to incorporate the
Yep,
planning board
okay.
conditions into this approval.
So if we can incorporate that.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for a special permit for ZB 2014-021 to reduce parking, provide illuminated sign and drive-through lanes for McDonald's at 803 Roger Street, and to include the conditions provided by the planning board.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Palia?
Approved.
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Okay, the special permit has been approved. Could I have a motion on the variance, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for a variance for ZB 2014-021, applicant McDonald's at 803 Roger Street, to increase the size and length of a sign and for reduced width of angled parking lots, and to include the conditions provided by the planning board.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Palia?
Approved.
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Okay, sir. McDonald's been approved. We'll go to our next petition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The next petition is ZB 2014-22. The applicant is Hannaford Brothers LLC. Petition is a special permit and variance. Property is located at 847 Roger Street. Petition special permit for illuminated sign pursuant to section 6.2.39 and a variance to increase the area for a trademark and to erect an off-site billiard directional sign pursuant to section 6.335 and 6.34. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Richard Balmer, Nobis Engineering, 585 Middlesex Street. The site plan revision that was approved by the planning board last week incorporated the rewrite of the zoning ordinance that took place in the mid-2000s when the Hannaford store was originally reviewed and approved. The McDonald's was an existing parcel, and there was a joint effort to accommodate access and a cross-easement agreement between the two parcels at the time. At the time of the original approval, the zoning requirements for the retail store were significant. Well over 300 parking spaces. And as a result, Hannaford needed every square footage of the site that was available for both the store and to meet the parking requirements. What the city council did with the zoning revisions in the mid-2000s was recognize that those parking requirements were excessive. So what we were able to do in this case, which I look at as a kind of a win-win-win situation between Hannaford and McDonald's and for the city as a whole, was by amending the site plan to reduce the required parking for the Hannaford site, again, which was approved by the planning board as submitted last week. It gave the two parties the ability to amend the cross-easement agreement that then enable McDonald's to reconfigure the site as we talked about in the previous case. The balance or inner cooperation then continued to extend to, since we were going to move the McDonald's sign, could we also then add a directional sign for Hannaford onto that sign to improve traffic considerations in the region for both users of the overall development? That then generates the technical requirement for an off-site sign in the regional retail district, which is not normally approved. We look at that request for this variance as being really driven by safety, but also the configuration of the property. Again, while looking at the joint developments from a bird's eye view, one could think that they were jointly planned and constructed at the same time. History shows that that is not the case. If it had been the case, then there's no question that a suitable plan would have included a joint sign, including directional sign, at the location that's now proposed for the McDonald's site. So we are asking for relief for the variance to place an internally illuminated off-site sign to the benefit of Hannaford on the McDonald's parcel. In addition, based on the graphic that we're currently working with, we're also asking for relief that the trademark for the Hannaford directional sign might exceed the 10% limit that is otherwise associated or included in the zoning regulations. The detail on drawing SD7, at least on the one panel that we're asking and we're adding to the sign, it's about 50% of that particular panel, but we're probably at about 11%, so slightly over 10% of the overall sign area, which is about 108 square feet. That Hannaford trademark is about 12 square feet, roughly, based on the detail that we have on drawing SD7. Final design of that panel is yet to take place from the graphic designers, but we thought it would be prudent to ask for this relief in the event that the final design is consistent with potentially being at 11% instead of 10%, so that we have that flexibility here from the board. And that's essentially what our two asks are here from the zoning board with respect to the Hannaford approval. The sign benefits the property owner of, or the property and the business on 847, but it's physically located on the 803 parcel. That technically makes it an off-site sign.
The few instances that there've been an off-premise sign has usually been the case of a billboard being constructed, whether it be one that was approved a few years ago over on Tanner Street, or another one over by Route 3 over on Chelmsford Street in the Alpine Butcher business over there. So that's where we typically see off-premise signage, usually not in the case where you're not involving a billboard, but this is one of the few instances that there have been. There's been one that was a number of years ago, I think before any other board member was here, for a business on Congress Street. The sign's actually located over by Gorham Street, but the business is a little bit further down Congress Street.
when we looked at the graphic that we were given from Hannaford to add to the sign at the point in time we were putting the package together, we recognized that the size that we were given that fit on that 3x8 panel was very close and marginally to that 10% limit. And we wanted to give the applicant, Hannaford in this case, the ability, board willing, to put the size of the logo and the trademark on there that they would like to from a scale standpoint on the sign panel itself.
Nothing specifically relating to the trademark, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else like that?
I'd just like to add that the size of the logo is also a safety issue from our perspective, is making sure that it's visible enough for traffic and all weather conditions here, be able to see the sign adequately enough to then pull over and make that left-hand turn.
So the assumption is the sign is more visible, so people are less distracted trying to find the sign?
That's correct.
All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. I'm going to open it up to the public. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed. I'd like to open up to the board. Mike?
Mr. Chairman, no questions, just a comment. I think, just to echo what the petitioner said, I don't have a concern with the sign being slightly taller and slightly larger, as opposed to the, helping increase the traffic flow and safety in that area. So that's it.
Thank you. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the applicant. I think this is a good idea, especially from Hannaford's strategy, marketing standpoint. I mean, if more people can see it from where the McDonald's site is, it's good for business, good for traffic, good for people just looking for Hannaford. So overall, I think this is an improvement to the existing sign. So, thank you.
Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I like this proposal. I just have a couple of questions. So the new entry drive, what kind of signage is going to be placed there at the new entry drive concerning, Hannaford's identity there? Do we have a clear understanding as to how we're doing signage at the new drive location?
There's an existing, Hannaford has an existing freestanding sign on the north side of the entry drive to
Okay,
shopping center.
okay,
And that's not going to change, that will stay in place.
okay.
So what we're basically just doing is adding an informational panel that's visible before you get to the traffic signal and research center drive to announce and let people know that they can make a left-hand turn.
Would that be a two-sided panel?
The intent is that would be a two-sided panel,
So-
consistent with the rest of the McDonald's sign.
So you'd see, before that, you'd almost see two Hannaford signs, and you'd see two ways of getting, I don't know if it would be confusing.
As it's currently proposed, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Okay, I just wanted to try to get, because this is, the other direction makes all the sense in the world. But coming, what would that be, westbound, maybe on 38, but going east or
Well, we're
southeastbound
basically,
of 38?
northbound is into the city, southbound is
Okay.
towards
Sorry,
495.
southbound. It's going southbound.
We
just seems a little-
identified it as a consideration that the sign would be similar on both panels, like the existing McDonald's sign is now.
But really, I think we're targeting the people going southbound to come in the first.
Of going northbound to be able to make the left, yes.
Okay. All right, all right. I think I understand. Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, did we get a copy of that site plan that you just put up? I don't see him.
You don't have a copy of that particular plan.
Okay.
yet, yeah, but
right.
obviously, it will obviously be able to do that.
So what you're saying is both signs here, the only things are changing are coming in, correct? The existing Hampton sign is here, the existing McDonald's sign is here. We're moving the McDonald's sign up here. So just for completion of the package, we'll need to have a submittal of that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
All I have, thank you.
We'll be providing complete detailed plans prior to building permit to address the city staff comments.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Well, I believe based on the presentation this evening and again, I'll go back to the prerequisites and criteria for both the special permit and the variance. I believe Hannaford has met that and has demonstrated the need. So I guess we'll also incorporate the planning board decision. And Dennis, we just want to make sure, I don't know if is there a reference for that, or what do we want to call that?
C3.
Yeah.
Leave this here for the record.
Okay. All right. You all set? All right, could I have a motion first on the special permit?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2014-024, -022, for a special permit for illuminated sign for Hannaford Brothers at 846 Roger Street to incorporate sheet C3 dated 6/23/14, as well as the planning board conditions.
You have a second?
Second the motion.
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Palia?
Approve?
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
And could I have a motion on the variance, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2014-024 for a variance. I'm sorry, ZB 2014-022 for a variance for Hannaford Brothers at 846 Roger Street, for a variance to increase the area of the trademark and to erect an off-site billboard directional sign, and to incorporate the conditions from the planning board.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second the motion.
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Palia?
Approve?
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Okay, sir, been approved.
Thank you
Both
very
the
much.
variance and
Appreciate your
special
time
permit.
this evening.
Yep, wish you the best of luck, thank you. Okay, our next matter before us is ZB 2014-24, the petitions of variance. The applicant is Carlos Concepcion. Property is located at 9 Harrison Street. And the petitions of variance. Petitioner seeks a variance to put an addition on existing structure after a catastrophe that exceeds the previous three-dimensional footprint of the structure prior to incident. Pursuant to section 4.5.7 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see you again. So back on June 9th, you were here before us, and we discussed a few things. And one of the discussions, or I guess agreement we had, was you would revisit your plans, and that you would also, I guess, sit with Department of Planning and Development. My understanding is you never sat with them?
We just got the updated plans today from the architect.
Okay. So one of the things, I ask this of every petitioner, if it's going to be a change in plans, the board likes to take a look at these before the meeting. So we're just getting these now, to be honest with you. So, you know, I'll proceed ahead, but we'll see how it goes. All right, can you explain to us the changes, please?
Sure. So my name is Madeline Lisboa. I'm representing Carlos Concepcion. And from the last meeting, one of the things that we've modified in this floor plan is that there was a zoning limitation to the addition that we proposed of 500 feet. So that was modified to remove that entirely. The original proposal with the additional 500 feet, it was to include an additional bedroom. So that's no longer there. And the proposed floor plan just includes just a larger space to the kitchen to meet that zoning requirement.
Okay, so did you submit 2 different sheets for changes?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So you referenced the 500 square foot proposed second floor, which you said is being stricken, correct?
Yes.
All right. Can you explain the second sheet where it shows proposed first floor plan and then proposed second floor plan?
Sure. So the first floor plan, you can see from the back of the property, the only thing that we're extending is from the side to make the kitchen a little bit more spacious. It's very congested. And we're just leaving it with the stairs in the back. Just everything is still remaining the same. We didn't want to make it too large as an addition because as our last meeting, that was beyond the requirement that we did meet. So we just removed that completely. And then as far as the second floor plan, what we're requesting in this proposal is to add an additional bedroom, and the existing bedrooms are very small, so we're making it spacious. So we're trying to remove the space around to create more space within the bedrooms that are there, and then adding an additional bedroom, and also adding a full bathroom. There was only one bathroom for a 4-bedroom duplex property.
So for each unit, it's 3 bedrooms and 1 bath?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
For each unit, it's 3 bedrooms and 1 bath?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, and it's on the back, I know we talked about that, so it says deck. I thought there was
There,
no deck, right?
the reason why we're making these modifications was due to the fire of this property. In order to make it more safe, we will be removing what we were talking, because we just got the floor plan, and we definitely don't want a deck. We don't want anything to be caused that would harm this property and just rebuild. It just caused a lot of issues. So what we would like to propose, which you do not see in the floor plan, is creating a sunroom, just so we can keep that room, but enclosing it. So there wouldn't be any risk with having someone use a barbecue, like a grill, and do a barbecue right in that deck section.
Right, which is something that you had mentioned to us at the last meeting. You didn't want to have that. If they're going to do anything at all, it'd have to be at ground level anyways, correct?
Yes, but what we're proposing this evening is to just enclose it and create a sunroom so we don't lose that space in the house.
Okay, but that's not in the plans.
No, we would need to have our architect update that and resubmit it.
Okay, anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay. All right, I'm going to just reopen it to the public. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Going to open it up to the board. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a comment. I'm happy to see that the petitioner did follow the wishes of the board in reducing the size. I know you lose a bedroom, but it's still a 3-bedroom unit. And now there's 2 bathrooms, though, right? One on the first floor of each unit and one on the second floor.
The existing home has just one full-size bathroom, and we just felt there was a need for that additional bathroom, so the proposed floor plan does have that full bathroom.
And I guess just a question for you, Mr. Chairman, or for Joe. Can we vote on this tonight, or do we have to wait for the next revision of the plans now that the deck is going to become an enclosed sun porch or sunroom?
It's really the wish of the board. If the board were looking to cast a decision tonight, it could be conditional that any revised plans come back to this board for administrative review and approval, or you could simply continue it again to wait for said plans, and then act on them at that point.
Okay, thank you. No further questions or comments.
Thank you, Mike. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say thank you to the applicant. I know, you came with original plans, and we added some comments and input, and so I appreciate you working with the board and modifying your plans to meet the needs. I'm just curious, when you start, if you get full approval and everything, when you start doing this renovation, when we'll begin and like when we'll end, when we'll finish? Just curious.
The length of time in order to do the renovations, we're expecting between 12 weeks, approximately 12 weeks.
Okay. All right. That's all the comments I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for following through here with these significant reductions. I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping here, just so we're clear as to what we're approving. The first one is the plan that you submitted, first floor. Actually, the purpose of that rear stair is providing access out the back of the house, so we need to add doors to the plan from the kitchen. They're just missing on the either side. Is that correct?
Yeah, we will certainly
There'll
have
be
doors there.
So each unit egressing out into that.
Absolutely.
And so that room then that's called the deck, we're going to say is a sunroom, is going to be shared then by both tenants, right? Okay. It's just going to be enclosed but shared.
That's correct.
Okay.
They're going to have their privacy with a wall.
Well, it's details. I'm not going to worry about how the privacy works. I don't see that there, but in any event. And then the other piece, the zoning analysis that you submitted originally should be modified, I believe, because you were looking for relief at the rear yard setback, and it was 20 feet required, and you had 25 feet, I think, previously. And I think we're going back to leaving that, so the relief would not be required for the rear yard. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we can leave that alone. Okay. One last question. Would you be looking at developing the attic space in this house, or would that remain attic?
That's going to be a storage room.
It's going to remain storage, okay.
Yes.
Excellent, okay. No further questions, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I do appreciate the reduction in space as well. I know you're eager to move forward with this plan, especially after a fire. It always has a negative impact on everyone. Just as it relates to that 24-foot deck slash sunroom now, with the egress on the doors, would you be open to a condition that would remain a sun deck and not be enclosed?
No, we want to enclose it.
But as a sun deck, it's not eventually going to become an enclosed room, because then that goes back to the setback. No? Through you, Joe? The existing edge of the decking, if that was to become an enclosed room, would that bring us back to stage one? If it was
Well,
to
the-
be enclosed and considered a livable space?
The decking right now is shown to be meeting the rear yard setback.
Okay.
With the reduction from the previous
All right,
addition that was shown, so now it's meeting that rear yard setback.
okay. I just want to be clear that it remains a sunroom. Okay, no more questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, I guess the first question I'll ask, and it's probably to the board members, what do you want to do with the new submittal of plans? Are we accepting them as is with modifications? Are we asking for a new set of plans for, I guess I'll call it the second page? Any comments?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I would make a condition we receive a new set of plans indicating the changes to the sunrooms as discussed, just to update them at a time determined by DPD, just for the record.
Okay, and then the other point I have is, so Joe, from DPD standpoint, does the department need any further review of these plans, or is the department okay with moving ahead?
Well, I guess that would be if the board wanted DPD to further review the plans, we're more than happy to do that and bring it back to the board for review, particularly for any design review on the exterior of the building, if the board wanted to seek something like that. Otherwise, DPD doesn't typically get involved on the interior layout. But if the board wanted to look at anything on the exterior, then DPD is more than happy to review that and
Well-
bring it to the board.
Did we have any discussion on the exterior anyways? I don't think so, right? No. So, is there any requirement for the exterior? I don't believe so, right?
There's no particular requirements for any
Yep.
materials or anything like that. So it's just whatever the board
right.
wishes.
Well, I guess I just want to make sure that, the city is comfortable with what's been submitted this evening. So do you understand, if we approve this, we'll condition it that the plans, again, will have to be revised?
Absolutely, we want an
Yep.
updated floor plan from our architect to show that, all those details.
Okay, so we'll set that as a condition, Dennis. Any other comments? Any other board members? Yes, sir?
I'd like to also suggest that the revised plan showing the sunroom maintains the edge of addition as illustrated on the plan submitted today.
It will be the existing size, we're just enclosing it, and we'll note that in the floor plan,
That's what I want to say.
yes.
Okay, could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2014-024 for variance for Carlos Concepcion at 9 Harrison Street, for variance to put an addition on an existing structure after catastrophe that exceeds the previous, to put an addition on a structure after catastrophe. I'm not going to say what it exceeds. With the following conditions, that the plan submitted today from construction design, and we'll say dated June 23rd, 2014, will be amended with additional egress doors added to the rear of the addition, as well as an enclosed sunroom, not to exceed the envelope illustrated on the plan, and to be submitted to the board as a matter of record.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second the
Second.
motion.
Sorry.
Roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Palia?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Peck?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approved with conditions.
Okay, been approved. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. We appreciate your time. When would you like the modified floor plan to be submitted by?
As soon as you can get them to us.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. He's not up next anyways. So, right? Yeah. Okay, our next order of business under new business is ZB 2014-26, the petitions of variance. The applicant is Molly Van Thay, property is located at 16 Branch Street. The petitioner seeks a variance to demolish a two-family structure and construct a new single-story building, approximately 1,840 square feet, without meeting the front yard setback requirement pursuant to Section 5.1 of the zoning ordinance. Representative?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Attorney Stephen Geary. I represent Molly Van Thay, who is the owner of the property at 16 Branch Street, with the petitioner before you tonight. Since the submittal of our original plan, we do have revised plans that incorporate the changes that were suggested by the various departments. They were just completed, so I apologize for not having them sooner, but they're very straightforward. If I could pass out copies, as well as a plan of the proposed building.
Sure.
So the plan, as you can see from the rendition, we're basically looking for a minor variance for the pursuant to 5.1 for the front yard setback. As you can see from the zoning grid, the maximum allowed is 8 feet, and what we're proposing is 36.5, and that's, you know, somewhat different from what we're used to seeing in front yard setback. It actually requires less rather than more. And if any of you folks have gone by that building right now, you can tell that there's it's actually a two-family building there that's rather dilapidated, and it has a retaining wall in the front, and the retaining wall is crumbling. It's really an eyesore to that neighborhood that's really been regenerated over the last several years. that area of Branch Street, I'm sure you're all familiar with it, but it's extremely congested area. It's a community of a lot of Asian businesses there that rely heavily on foot traffic and pedestrians. And the proposal here is for a retail use, a business or retail use, 2 separate units. If you can see by the photograph there, each will have one side. The signage will be on the front of whatever it is, and the total square footage proposed is 1680, as opposed to the 1840 that I think was in the original plan. So we've reduced it by the 200 feet to allow for bigger parking spots, a bigger area to turn around in the front, as well as the handicap spot that you see there. So there's 4 parking spots in the front, and that's why we're requesting the front yard setback. And if you look at the building, each side will have almost identical square footage. We couldn't reduce the building anymore reduce the size of the building anymore to accommodate for larger turnaround area for the parking without making it not worthwhile to anybody. So we think it's a relatively straightforward variance, and it meets all the requirements, and I can address the particular issues that were addressed by the various departments. They wanted something for trash removal.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can't, if you want to talk, can you go outside the chambers, please? Thank you.
So for the trash removal, if you can see, if you look at, if you're facing the plan to the right side, there's 2 squares with a D that delineates the carts. One of the references to the various departments recycling said the option was to use carts. There's plenty of room to do that there. They've suggested some flowering plants. Below that, you'll see the gray circles. Those are the flowering plants that would be the non-invasive type. And to the left, there was no requirement for snow storage, but we did have an area that we're going to designate as snow storage, and that will be removed as needed, and there'll be a tree planting there along with the retaining wall on that side, on the left side, and on the front, you can see that this have a curb cut with the 2 guardrails on either side of that. There's an area for the subsurface drainage system. That hasn't obviously been done because the existing building there that's going to be raised and demolished, if approved, is beneath that, so they'll have to deal with that then. But all in all, everything all the concerns from the boards were addressed in this new plan. And the plan, again, is very straightforward. It's taking an existing dilapidated building and replacing it with this building that you see that was designed very tastefully, and it fits right into that community. My client actually owns one of the properties, I think it's 3 buildings east of that, on the other side of Powland Plaza. It's exactly like this. It has the 4 parking spots right in front, and there's never been any issue there. I know the traffic engineer did have an issue where it's preferable to have, I guess it's 22 feet rather than the 12 that we're proposing to turn around there. And obviously, the more you have, the better. But the reality of the situation on Branch Street is if you look at all the businesses there, it just doesn't allow for it. It's a very unique community over there, and all the businesses thrive on the way that they are set up. And this business, we anticipate, would blend in perfectly with that neighborhood. There'd be no derogation from anything over there. The intent of the zoning would be completely maintained, and it would just enhance that property. And again, my client's had another business over there that he's maintained very well. It's a very strong part of that community, and I anticipate that if approved, this business would be similar to that. So I'm happy to address any issues that you have or answer any questions.
And where's their other property, Counselor?
Where's the other property?
Yeah.
It is, if you're facing my client's property, then you have the 2 plazas. It's the next building over that, almost exactly across from the eastern side of the Boys Club. Same thing, the 4 parking spots in front, and I think it's a jewelry place. Or,
Okay. Okay, anything else?
Again, I didn't mention this, but he did speak to all of the surrounding neighbors, and he didn't have anybody that was opposed to it. Obviously, I think that if it's an enhancement to the neighborhood, people are probably looking forward to it.
Okay. All right, anything else you'd like to add at this point?
No, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Anyone here, I'd like to open it up to the public. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. And open it up to the board. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I have through you to the representative for the petitioners, I mean, I really do have the concern. I know that there are already buildings in that area that have a similar setup, and people back out into Branch Street or back out onto Middlesex Street. And although I know that it's an existing condition in that area, this will just be adding to the fact that there are a lot of traffic issues on certain days and times anyway. Certainly Saturday mornings and Sundays are busy times for the larger plaza, and even after moving the front of the building back a few extra feet, the traffic engineer is still concerned about the folks trying to back out of their spaces and/or drive over the curb to get in and out. So I wonder, you're saying there's really nothing else that the petitioner can do as far as?
Well, there's really not. You know, it wouldn't be feasible for him to reduce the size of the building anymore. As you can see, there's no, you know, the configuration of the building, there's no way to do it on the side. But, you know, I would, you know, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but if the area, like I said, is very unique over there. A lot of these businesses work very well with that issue. What this does, this takes 4 cars off the side of the street, because normally, if this parking wasn't there and he kept the building up to the front, the parking would be on the side or the side of the street. This at least allows for some cars to get off the road. And it's important to note that one of those spots is handicapped. It would only be used for handicapped accessible car and van. So the likelihood of that spot being used much is not great. On top of that, the other spots would most likely be used for the people working in those retail places, because they're relying on the people for foot traffic. So it's not like customers are going to be, if you only have 3 spots, because essentially with a handicap spot, you really only have 3 spots. And the likelihood of customers coming in and out during the day and driving in and out, it's not a 7-Eleven. That's not what's going to go there. So to be retail, and the people who would be working there most of the day would be parking there. But it does take 3 cars, or 4 arguably, if you use the handicap, off the road in a very congested area over there. You know, that park is a huge boon to that area, and all the people live in a condensed area. That's all their walking community over there. So I think this, even though there's hundreds of businesses in the city exactly like this that back out, and I'm not saying that, you know, it's not a danger. There's businesses that back out to busier streets, but this area is unique because a lot of the traffic over there is foot traffic, and people are aware of, you know, how it works. And I think that, you know, it wouldn't be as big of a concern here as it would be at other places in the city that don't have any problems with it. Ideally, yes, if there were 22 feet, but if that were the case, he really couldn't do this project because it wouldn't work. If there was a way to do it, he would consider it, but the way we look at it is not without substantially reducing the building and making it not worthwhile for anybody. So what's left there, if we don't, is this dilapidated building that would have to find some use, and it's really, you know, not good for that area. I think all in all, it's a win for that area, even considering that the engineer preferably would want the 22 feet as opposed to the 12. But I do understand his concern.
Thank you. No, and I agree. I mean, the updated plans that you gave us tonight with the landscaping and the dumpster pad, the elevation plans, I think it will be a good addition to that plaza, and it will just give people from the neighborhood and elsewhere more reasons to go there and shop, I'm sure. But, so I just have a question for you, Joe. The petition is in compliance with the number of spaces that are needed, correct?
That's correct. It requires about 4.
The zoning code itself doesn't make any allowances for whether someone has to back out into the street or not. It's just a matter of having the correct number of spaces for the type of business.
That's
Even though it's not the optimal situation for people to be backing into Branch Street. There's nothing in the zoning code that stops the petitioner from going forward.
That's mostly correct. For
That's why I asked you to clarify.
Yeah, for instances where you have spaces just pulling in off the street, there really isn't much of a drive aisle. The drive aisle width that we have in our parking dimensions is usually designed, the numbers designed for that are for cars to be able to pull in and out of spaces and be able to circulate on a site without having to interfere with either cars on the street or other cars that are circulating the property. So that's where that 22 number comes into play. That's the diagram that was provided by the transportation engineer shows basically why that number exists in the room that's needed for a car to be able to turn around over there. So that's where that number comes into play. But I guess generally speaking, it's for the number of parking spaces, it's just, wherever they fit, basically.
Okay, thank you. No further questions or comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ben?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Overall, I think this is a great project. As Attorney Gary mentioned, this building is underutilized and dilapidated. And if anything, this area in the city, it's the new Town district. It's a economic drive for the city. It brings in business, tourism. It's all part of the master plan for the city. So overall, I think, repurposing this building, it's going to add not just to that neighborhood and to that district, but to the city as a whole. So overall, I think this is a great project, and, I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through Mr. Chairman, I echo Van's comments again. The design that you presented tonight, the exterior design, the materials that are being used on it, can you tell us what the building materials are going to be?
I think it says on, I'd have to get back one of my copies, but I think it's stucco facade design with a glass structure in the front. It's a pretty standard commercial design. I think it's noted in the side, and I could take a look at one of those copies.
Thank you. Would the expectation be that the concrete block material wraps the remaining 3 sides of the building as well?
Right, and I think that's noted on the plan, right? It says the concrete.
It does call it out as a
the
concrete
apron.
block? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. The site plan shows a building shifting now so that it's not centered in the lot anymore, and we have a 6-foot wide side yard setback on one side. The setback on the east side, is that 2 feet? It seems as though that's what it's indicating right now, but the zoning district dimensions call out the minimum side yard as being 4 feet, and the variance doesn't include a variance for side yard setback.
And you're referring to which part, Mr. McCarthy? On,
So there's a setback, so the whole building shifted by 2 feet and allowed the dumpster location. So we have a 6-foot setback on one side. The building width, I think, stayed the same at 42 feet or so. And it looks like we have a 2-foot side yard now. Is that correct?
yeah, I think the side yard setback, minimum side yard is 0. Is it 0?
0. I'm sorry. You're right. Okay.
It actually has, if you look at the zoning chart, it actually has, it has more than we need on almost everything except for the front yard, and we're asking to push the building off the street a little, so.
Okay.
But in the business end, it's different with the neighborhood, I mean, the residential, but it is. And that was a question I had initially for the engineer as well, so.
It's odd that I see 0 setbacks required.
Right.
That's kind of unusual there. Okay. The furthest easterly parking space has a guardrail right behind it that looks precarious as far as negotiating that you're backing up for one, you're backing up onto Branch Street for another, and then you have a guardrail 12 feet behind you. That seems like a rather difficult chore. I was just playing with the layout here, just to be creative. If you rotated the spaces so that they'd be 90 degrees to what you're showing, and had 3 spaces stacked on one side, allowing an 18-foot depth, a 23-foot width for a drive aisle, and then 1 parallel space on the far westerly side. You'd still maintain your 4 spots, but provide a circulation spot for those cars that would be on site. Just an idea.
So you're saying kitty corner it?
Rotate 90 degrees, 3 spaces to the east, and one of them being a handicap spot, so you're providing 13 feet, 8 and 5 for a unloading zone. And that would still give you a snow storage at the front part of the lot. But I'm just saying we could potentially end up with a situation where we're circulating or backing from these spaces on the lot, rather than trying to negotiate this 24-foot wide curb cut, because you basically have 36 feet wide of car spaces trying to get into this 24-foot wide curb cut that has guardrails on either side, only 12 feet from your parking space.
And the guardrails don't have to be there. That was our engineer's suggestion, as for the opposite, to kind of direct and stop the cars from
Well,
going.
to protect the people on the sidewalk too, right?
Right.
Because we're really only having a 24-foot curb cut, right? I think it's, I'm just thinking that the design has come a long way by moving everything back, making the building smaller, great-looking facade. I just think that we're not done yet on the parking, and I think that there could be another pass here to solve the backing onto Branch Street piece and still maintain 4 parking spaces.
Okay. I'm trying to visualize, I'm not an engineer, and I'm trying to visualize what you're saying with the rotating 90 degrees.
I can show you right here, if you'd like to take a look.
Sure.
That'd be great.
Some oil on that. Or just replace it.
No, we'd put one parallel on this side.
It's like the doors on my house.
3 only, so it'd be 27. So this one is as difficult, but
So we did, Mr. Golick, the engineer, did show me a couple of things that in line of what you were talking about, Mr. McCarthy, and the problem is with the handicap requirement there, we have to have that, so that would reduce the size of the building where it wouldn't be worth it, but that was looked into. I understand, again, that it's not the preferred parking plan, and it's not something that is ideal, but I think given that area, it still works. It might be a little bit difficult, but it still works, and I would ask the board to consider that.
No, I understand, but I do believe that we could incorporate that 5-foot walk into the unloading zone of the handicap parking space, and all would be well. You would have the dimension you'd need. I think it's worth working with DPD to see if we can get a parking layout that reduces the parking backing out onto Brand Street and provides a safe condition for people in the sidewalk area.
And that would be a condition that my client would
Yep.
be agreeable to. Obviously, if there's a better way to do it,
That's what I think we should.
without reducing the size of the building, we are all for it.
Okay. Wonderful. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the petitioner. I applaud this proposal. The site has been in disrepair for some time, and the Asian community, the Cambodian community down in that whole section of the city has taken ownership, and they have made it their own, from the park to the businesses to the development to the condos, reaching on both sections parallel. To be putting a new building on the site, new businesses, and continue investing in the city is something that the city is in need of, and we should be proud of what our Cambodian community is doing with commercial and residential space throughout the city. I think this plan has been worked on. I think council is showing good faith tonight and working with recommendations from board, Mr. McCarthy, on those parking spots. It is, in my opinion and my experience, being down the Boys Club for over 30 years, it is highly dedicated to foot traffic. Pedestrian concern is always a concern in light of the conversation that just took place, and your openness to move forward with your engineer and with DPD to look at that space without reducing the size of your building is going in the right direction, and I appreciate the positive response to that. I support this petition, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, council, I think you started it off with, generally, we take a look at the comments come back from the city, and I think you started the meeting off with, I know we didn't go through line by line the different sections, but it sounds like that you had addressed at least the comments that came back from the city that the board also received, and I think at the end of the day that the parking seems to be the crux of the issue. If I think about that neighborhood, do you have off-street parking or not have off-street parking? So I guess if there wasn't a requirement, then you wouldn't have to be here for the parking. And you
Right.
could have a foot traffic, but then where are the people gonna park? They're gonna end up parking on the street anyways, so then we get into cars on both sides of that street and the amount of traffic. I mean, the traffic volume there has increased, dramatically. So I think it's good that we can have off-street parking, but it almost causes a hardship now for the applicant to fulfill that need or requirement by the city. So I think, I had written a few things down, so when Dennis called you up and you were talking, if you're, you and your client would like to, I think it's a great petition. I think it'll fit with the character down there because it's really a blend of residential and small business, but small business has really taken off down there. But if you and your client could work with the city on the parking, I'm sure there's a way to get it achievable that meets the needs of yourself and the applicant and the city.
Right, well, like Mr. McCarthy said, even if there's not a way to 100% fix it, if we can fix it 50 or 75%.
Right.
I mean, maybe it's just tweaking it here or there, and my client is absolutely willing to do that. It would benefit his business to do that, so
Right.
we have no opposition to that at all, and I appreciate the suggestion.
Yeah, Yeah, and, you know, I know Mr. Eby had his comments regarding the parking plan and the traffic flow, those types of things. Again, you also included some things like, Gunther put his comments in here regarding the dumpster with the enclosure. You've included that.
Yeah,
You
with-
put some extras in here that weren't really called out, so I think the board appreciates that. Do you have any idea what type of businesses are going in there?
It would be retail, I mean, it
Yeah.
it could be, you know, office space, it could be,
Yeah.
you know, a lawyer, it could be a chiropractor, it could be, you know, a
Are they gonna
yoga
put,
place. Retail or office, he's not sure. I'll tell you this, that I can almost 100% assure you that it won't take long to fill either one of those places. It's just that busy of an area over there. So it's gonna depend on his studies as to what he thinks he can maximize and what the interest is.
Is he gonna do, I'll call it signage, but for the parking spaces themselves, like customer only or anything like that? Do you know if he has any plans for that, just to designate? I mean, obviously, the handicap spot will
Right.
have its signage, but is he gonna do
He'll
anything?
comply 100% with the building code. I don't know what that requires offhand,
Okay,
but, again, if you wanted to make, if signage regarding parking or directional, if you wanted to make that a condition as to a suggestion, again,
Yep, I think that would be helpful for the whole project, yep.
he's willing
If
to
you're-
do
if you're
anything like
willing to
that
go
that
with
would help.
Okay. All right, any other comments from any other board members? But regarding the reason why you're here for the variance, again, I think you as the petitioner have met the requirements of the prerequisites. I mean, like I say, I think there's definitely a hardship over the whole parking thing. I mean, do you want to be parking on the street or do you want off-street parking? I know I personally like the off-street parking. It's like granting it and wanting it, and then you cause these issues, so. All right, could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2014-026 for a variance for Mol Van Thay at 16 Branch Street, for a variance to demolish a two-family structure and construct a new single-story building without meeting front yard setback requirements. The following condition: to continue to work with DPD to provide a safe parking design and reduce the need for backing out onto Branch Street, and to work with DPD on directional signage as well.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Palia?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Peck?
Approved conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Hey, Counselor, you've been approved with conditions, but wish you the best of luck.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and my client's engineer will be in touch with Mr. Janowitz this week.
Great.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, our next order of business is ZB 2014-27. The petition's a special permit and variance. The applicant is 81 Farmland Realty Trust, property located at 81 Farmland Road. And the petition's a special permit and variance. The petitioner seeks a variance to add a second floor to an existing building with a church and a special permit to modify the use of the property from a church, business, and storage facility to a real estate office and storage facility pursuant to section 4.52 and 5.1 of the zoning ordinance. Yes, sir. How are you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Paul Borbo. I am an architect and owner of PHB Architects in Rye, New Hampshire. I'm here representing Mr. DeRosa to my left regarding this project. Mr. DeRosa has done a lot of business over the past 10 years here in Lowell, trying to rehab dilapidated and severely, I would say, constructed buildings in the city, and mostly for student housing for UMass Lowell. In this particular case, what they're looking to do is to move their operation, their construction management company, to Lowell so that they're closer to the properties that they're working on. And this particular property came available and seemed to be a great opportunity for his business to be a little closer to the action down here in Lowell, make things a lot easier for his people as well. To be able to communicate with Mr. DeRosa during the course of the day doing business here in Lowell. This property, as you may or may not know, has been used for many different uses over the years, but primarily it has not been occupied as a single-family home, even though it's in a single-family residence and a single-family zone, I'm sorry. So the opportunity to take this building, which is in need of some repair, obviously, and turn it into a first-class construction management building along with some general storage was a great opportunity. And as you can see from the sketches, what we're proposing here is to be consistent with the residential feel of the neighborhood and create something here that we think fits in with the neighborhood and brings the property values up in and around this particular piece of property.
I guess the first thing I'll ask, without even opening my package, I believe, Mr. DeRosa, you've been here before us a couple of times, correct? And I guess the last project that I can remember is the one over by Shed Park, corner lot, Thorndike and, no, Thorndike and cross street from the old Keith. Yeah.
That's correct, Highland Street, the four-tenement conversion from the fire. Blue building off the connector.
Yep.
Did a wonderful job.
And, yep, and I know, so I know we as a board, at least some of the members on here have seen a product of what you've done. So with that said, is there a plan to, what is the plan to take the existing building and I'll say freshen it up?
Well, the plan is to keep the existing footprint intact,
Yep.
to add a second floor and turn that into his construction management office here in Lowell, Massachusetts.
Right, but do you plan on doing anything with the current exterior right now? You got the storage facility, you got the, I'll call it the main building. I mean, I went up there, I must have sat around for almost a half hour just checking out the whole area, drove the whole neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely just single-family residences around there.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a smattering of small businesses on Aiken Ave and Aiken Street. But when I look at that building, I kind of look at it and say, how did it get here to begin with? Obviously, it's been there. And, you know, I think it needs some freshening up. So I'm trying to find out exactly what is the plan for, I'll say, the exterior. And I asked that based on your past performances with other properties. So I have a keen interest to find out what your plans are.
I'll let Mr. DeRosa answer that question.
Sure, absolutely.
They have the rendering sitting right there on the table.
Absolutely. If you can, you need to address us from the board, from the podium, please, yeah. Because I think he gave each of the members one of the handouts, is that correct? Yeah,
It's black and white, but.
Yeah. okay.
Adding, do you have a picture yourself? Okay.
Yep.
The main building, adding a second floor, let's call it the corporate offices will be up on the second floor. On the first floor, my hope is to put a conference room. We have, on Wednesdays, a construction meeting, a couple of bathrooms, a couple of offices, and then upstairs will be for myself, Jeff, and there's probably 4 or 5 other offices will be up there for the other women that work in my office. The facade will be, like you see here in this rendering, some sort of stone. I haven't picked the stone yet, but this is a place where I'm going to be living. Well, not literally living there, but this is going to be my place. My main office is up in Londonderry, New Hampshire. Currently, all the projects we've been buying lately, we bought quite a few in Lowell. We're dealing out of our trunks. All of our cars are mobile offices. And to go to Londonderry, we go up once a week on Wednesdays for that construction meeting that I talked about earlier. And it's a real pain in the neck for us. So I searched and found this was a perfect match for what I needed. I needed some space for storage. And so that storage area over there will be that same material that I used on the 62 Highland project, but in red. We're going to try to make that look like a barn. Well, it is a barn right now, but the doors are going to be barn-style doors. We're going to use that cedar impression, but in a barn color red. And then the existing building, as I said, is in the front will be some sort of stone veneer. There'll be power gates that'll open at 7 or 7:30 in the morning, close at 5 o'clock for security. And if the budget allows, I'm hoping to do some sort of pavers, cobblestone in the parking area.
How many employees do you figure will be working out of the main building?
It's a family business. My son will be there. He's been with me for a little over a year. Jeff's been with me for 28 years, thank God. My sister and 2 others, so 5 or 6 at any given time.
And they could be there all day versus they could be in and out during the day if it's a real estate type business, is that?
Well, it's not really a real estate office. We'll only service our properties. We're not looking for outside business. We're probably rehabbing 25 to 35, well, this year I think it's going to be a little more aggressive, maybe as high as 50 more houses a year that we renovate in Lowell. We've been concentrating just in Lowell for the last couple of years. So it's not a real estate office where people are coming in and we're getting listings and things of that nature.
Right.
We're just managing our properties.
And as far as the storage area, what do you plan on putting in storage?
Well, sometimes our lumber company will call and say 2x4s instead of paying $3.50 a 2x4, we'll get a special and you can buy them for $1.25. I'll store sometimes materials like that. We just bought a big paint order from Lowe's in Lowell here. I normally pay $130 or $5, and we got them for $45. So I took the opportunity to buy a bunch of those, and we'll store building materials, I guess, in some of those bins. Right now, it's currently there's I think like 8 people that were renting each space. There was a junk guy, and still is. There's an electrician. I think there's a plumber, and they're filled to the ceiling with, as far as I'm concerned, junk. But
So you're
also gonna
saying the plan is to lease that out to
No,
others?
no, this is
Okay.
all going to be
Gonna-
from myself.
You're going to be controlling the whole site, correct?
Yes, I'm gonna-
Everything's under your domain.
that's correct.
There's no subleasing or any
None.
other activities? All right.
Not at all.
Yep.
And the doors, right now, there's, I think, 8 doors on the right-hand side, and in the front, there's 2 doors. We're going to cut down the busyness and make them double doors, residential double doors that'll look like barn doors, but will function like a regular garage door.
All right. And as far as deliveries like a Lowe's or something like that, is that a frequent type of trip or infrequent or?
No, typically what happens is we'll either pick it up and bring it to the site that we're working on, or they'll deliver it to the site. That's typical.
Yep. And what do you envision the hours of operation?
My sister's an early bird, should be there at 7:15, 7:30 in the morning. Although I'd show up probably around 10 o'clock, and Jeff's around 8, so 7:30 to like 4:30 would probably be our normal operation.
Okay. And you mentioned you're gonna have, it's gonna be gated, is that what you said? There'd be a
Yes.
gate across where the parking area is, that way nobody's coming in and out,
Exactly.
after, say, 5 o'clock at night.
Right.
Is that 5 days a week, 7 days a week, 6 days a week?
I
Any
still-
activity in the weekend, I guess, is what I'll ask.
Right, we're not open in the weekends, but I still work Saturdays and Sundays, and
Sure,
so I'm sure I'll be there on Saturdays and sometimes on Sundays.
okay. All right. I don't have anything else at this point. Is there anything else you'd like to explain or discuss? If not, I'm going to open it up to the public. Yes, sir.
There's
Sure.
just one thing. Part of the design, what we're trying to do is to maintain the existing entrance that's on the side of the building towards the front. And what we'll do there is create an entrance portico, and there'll be a handicap ramp that runs down the side of the building along that face of the building between the parking and the building. So the intention is to have an entrance portico, covered trellis area, and then a handicap ramp for the handicap parking space at the very end of the angled parking.
Was that handicap area going to be where the existing, I think there was looked like an existing, on the structure, the main structure, it looked like there was an existing.
No, this would just, the parking that we're proposing
Yep.
is all along the face of the building. There's an area behind the building. We're not going to be utilizing that for any structures.
Okay. But as far as the handicap accessibility, is it going to be down the end of the building?
Down the end towards the face of the barn, and then they'll have direct access to the ramp.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? Okay. I'm going to open it up to the public. Anyone here would like to speak in favor of this petition?
Hi, my name is Sandra McNamara. I'm president of Centerville Community Coalition and a retired inspector for the city of Lowell. And my personal opinion is it's the best thing that could ever happen to that area and that construction.
Yep. Okay.
I agree 1,000%.
Great. Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Patrick Farmer. I'm actually the president of the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group, and they actually attended our monthly meeting last week. We had nobody objecting to it. We saw the layout, we saw the plans. They're great. They fit in with the neighborhood, just like the existing buildings do now. So we definitely have our support behind it, and from everything we've seen, it's great. We didn't hear anybody object, and we had a pretty well-attended meeting. So as far as we're concerned, they have our blessing.
Great. Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Yes, sir.
My name is Daniel Hyde. I live at 82A Fisher Street. I approve this project 100%. I'm the abutter directly behind this project. This project will enhance the whole neighborhood. It will enhance our tax rate. And it's something long, long overdue. The property there is blighted. I've been there 55 years, and it has gotten nothing but worse. I 100% back this project. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Anne Marie Page. I reside at 26 Fremont Street, and I'm the current president of the Citywide Neighborhood Council. I sit on the board of the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group. Mr. DeRosa and Mr. Dillon approached the neighborhood group. We didn't have to go after him. He came after us. He made a presentation at our monthly meeting. He answered questions by many of the neighbors, and this is a darn good-looking project. I spoke to somebody today who lives on Farmland Street and they said about the old property, classified as real ugly. How did that happen? I said, well, many years ago, zoning wasn't what it is now. And now we have the new property. And the neighbors are concerned, what's it going to look on the backside? And Mr. DeRosa and Mr. Dillon have informed us that the backside will be made to look presentable and neat and clean. It will not be on the ugly category like in picture number 1. And we'll hold them to their word. So it is a very good project for a place that was really double ugly when you would drive by. The double doors they're putting up also, instead of having a concept of 10 or 12 of these little horse stalls, you will have the double doors. It'll give the impression of like five or six large garage doors, but with a nice style, as you saw in that picture. So it is a good project for Centerville. We are very fussy. We've been here before. We have no problem telling you what we want and don't want in our neighborhood. This is a good project, and if it wasn't, we'd be the first to tell you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Opposition, opposition. Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a couple of questions. I live in Centerville, and I agree with what's been said about the property as it currently exists, including when I went to take a look at it again this weekend. So it certainly seems like it would be a great improvement. Have you had a chance to respond to some of the comments or any of the comments that DPD included in the packet that they gave us?
No, we had an opportunity to read through them, and we haven't directly responded to any of the comments that were made. I think in general, it's mostly common sense comments that were made. There were some specific requests. One in particular was a request for the sidewalks, and as you can see in my rendering, I did include a sidewalk in my rendering, even though one doesn't currently exist, and it was really more artistic license than anything, because obviously a sidewalk on an island by itself doesn't really, solve anything, unfortunately, but certainly if there was some push in the neighborhood to institute or install sidewalks, I'm sure that Mr. DeRosa would be more than happy to do his fair share as a resident in that area.
And then there were also questions about curbing, about fence height and gate,
Right.
and things like that. So you plan on developing a response to
Yes.
DPD's comments? Okay.
Yes, I think just in general concept, we wanted to present the project to the board this evening and get your approval, hopefully, to move forward. And as we move forward, we would address all those comments very specifically in our presentations and drawings to the city.
Okay. The barn piece will, other than construction materials, will there be any heavy equipment stored in the barns? Or any type of equipment that would be coming and going from the property?
We occupy a barn over on Wanalancet, and currently we have over there big drills, something to take down demolition type drills, spray guns, nothing.
I guess I meant more motor vehicles. Would there be anything larger than a pickup truck coming and going from?
We have one truck that I expect to put inside nightly in the garage that's straight ahead. It's a Zuzu I call it a Zuzu pickup truck. You see those trucks that say got junk on the sides of them?
Sure.
It's an aluminum. It's about a 12, 13-yard dump truck.
Okay.
Slightly bigger than your typical 1-ton truck that you see the landscapers have. We use that for when we're demoing the properties and we can't get a dumpster on site. Many of these roads are so narrow you can't get a dumpster, so we use that truck. But it's brand new. At the end of the night, we like to put it inside.
Okay. And then I had a question too about, would any of your tenants, for some reason, be coming to your office, say, to pay their rent in person or to deal with an issue with one of your properties, or?
Today they don't because we're out of New Hampshire. So I would imagine that we have properties that are, one's on farmland. I would imagine they would want to walk up the street and pay their rent. There's one in Fisher, so there's, some of the properties just literally houses away. So I would
But I
imagine.
mean, you mentioned that you might be working on 50 properties this year. There wouldn't be 50 people showing up the first of the month and a line of traffic of people coming to pay the rent there versus mailing a check or?
About half the properties I have in Lowell right now, call it outside Lowell, and then the other half are inside. I would guess that those people might want to drive over. We give to all of our tenants a self-addressed stamped envelope, so I can't, I don't know how many people, I've never had my office inside.
So would they, I guess, would they be encouraged to come and pay in person? Or you would discourage them from, I just wouldn't want to see a line for the folks
I can
that
assure
do
you,
live
we'd
right
have
on
no line.
farmland. I wouldn't want to, what's that?
I assure you, there'd be no line.
Okay.
But, yeah, typically, right now, they do, most of it comes in by an ACH. People set up their online banking. I would say today, and again, that may change because right now we're in New Hampshire. I would say probably 50% of the people today, 40, 50% pay by an ACH. I'd say 25% of the people use the self-addressed stamped envelopes, and the other people send, don't use our envelopes, use their own envelopes. Or today, I would say less than 2% bring it to our office.
Okay. I'm sure some other members of the board, I will probably have conditions on things like the DPD's comments and landscaping and things like that, but I don't have any further questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the applicant, I just want to say thank you for moving your business to Lowell and really, helping revitalize all the dilapidated buildings, and especially this one. It's not always an easy task to get the neighborhood and residents behind you, so I really applaud what you're doing here, and I think this is a great project, and I wish you all the best luck, sir.
Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I agree with Van one more time that we're really lucky to have a individual like yourself taking the time and doing the quality work that you do on the renovations that you provide. And this just looks like it'll be another fine example of that. The rendering is tremendous, Mr. Dillon. Great design. I have a couple of questions. The building size. So right now, you're documenting, I think, an FAR. So could you just tell me what the square footage currently is and what you're proposing as an area?
There's actually two buildings. You have the main proper building, which is currently being used as a church, and you have the Red Barn storage areas. The main building is approximately 2,500 square feet. The barn, I think, is around 3,200 square feet. What we're proposing to do is add less than 2,500 square feet on the second level of the main building, because as you can see from the rendering, we're building it into the roof. And I was concerned when I was doing the proposal that I wanted to minimize the impact on the actual renovation to the building in addition to the building, so I tried to incorporate it into the roof and just add dormers where I could so they get the head heights that they needed. So therefore, it would be a little bit smaller than the existing footprint. So when all is said and done, about 5,000 square feet from the main building, the storage area would not change, it would remain the same.
I heard what you said, but I'm trying to think of that rendering, and to double the space, you just said 5,000 square feet. I'm thinking that you'd be maxed out at 4,000. I mean, your second floor has got a lot of eave space there, I think.
Oh, attic space, I'm sorry, yes. There'd be a lot of knee walls up on the second floor, so you're probably right. It's probably no more than 4,000 square feet,
Yeah.
because most of that is being cut into the roof.
Right. Okay. And then I wanted to ask about your site plan shows 5 vehicles stored on site or parked. And you mentioned that there's a service vehicle that you have, an Isuzu dump truck, I think, that probably wouldn't fit into a barn storage, so it'd be parked on site as well. Is that correct?
The truck I just mentioned, I believe
Okay.
Just the other day, pulled in a one-ton dump truck in a pit right in the house, so I believe the other truck was the same. It's a little taller than your normal.
Okay.
Typical garage door is about 7 feet tall. If this truck that Mr. DeRosa is explaining is a little bit bigger than that, we'd go to the next size door, which would be an 8-foot tall door to accommodate it.
Nice. Would there be a storage yard on the site for equipment that wouldn't be in the barns, outdoor storage for equipment?
Out the office building in the barn, and I'm not sure of the size, but there was a fence company for the longest time that rented space there. They had a dump truck in there, they had a couple of trailers, fencing, and that.
So would there be outdoor screening then to this storage? I'm just trying to figure out what you'd be storing in there and if it would be unsightly in a residential neighborhood, that kind of thing. Would there be screening of this material? I'm just trying to figure out if there'd be a situation where it might be unsightly in a residential neighborhood.
Did you say screening?
Screening, yeah.
Yes, we would screen the
Privacy fence.
yeah, privacy fence. We'd screen the back. There's an existing fence back there now that I would probably add those slats.
Yep, vinyl slats, yep, okay. All right, I think I understand the project.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I refer back to your project over on Highland Ave. We went through that, through this board, and I watched that project from start to finish. It gave that whole part of the city off the connector a new look. Moving over to, in my grandmother's words, God's country, and taking a dilapidated section of the city and doing what you're doing. You have a great business partnership. And I recall back then looking and seeing your office space in Londonderry, New Hampshire, and saying to myself, why can't we get this gentleman to start a business here? And here you are today doing that. And I think that's tremendous. To take this space, to maintain a residential feel with an old-fashioned feel of the barn, and continue to revitalize, going from 20 to 30 up to 50 properties, bodes well not only for what you're doing, but what you're doing for our city. And I thank you. I think this is a wonderful project to have the kind people of Centerville come out, all the different representatives from all the different boards, and give you the support that you need. It's a credit to what you're doing. So I think moving forward, just keep doing what you're doing. And there's probably 50 more properties out there you can find over the next course of 6 months to a year that you can help our city move forward. So I wish you the best of luck, and thank you for coming to Lowell.
Mr. Parent, thank you for the kind words, and all I can say to add to that is that it's really been a partnership between the city of Lowell and Mr. DeRosa over the past 10 years, and without the assistance of all the local building officials and everyone in that department, it really wouldn't have been possible.
I agree. I echo that. We have a tremendous DPD department, and our boards are top-notch here. At every turn, you two gentlemen have always been right there looking for conditions and approving and moving forward, and with no hesitation. I think tonight was the first time I ever heard you say, oh, look at the budgets, and you referred to cobblestone, so I know in your backdrop you're thinking of the historical piece of the city, so all that stuff is, it's tremendous stuff, so thank you very much. Good luck with your project.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Joe, is there anything that we haven't discussed that DPD or anybody else in the city had comments on?
Nothing else at this point, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. Well, as I stated at the very beginning, this petition has been here before, and I think the proof is in the pudding of projects that he's done before. That's why when I saw you gentlemen come in, I was wondering which petition you were here for. But like I say, I spent almost half hour sitting and going up and down that area, and I said, wouldn't it be great if somebody come in and really built that whole structure up? And so I have every happening and hoping and feeling that based on your past performance, we're gonna see a nice project there. So again, you're in here for both a special permit and a variance. And I believe you demonstrated through your design work. Now, the only other thing I'll bring up, Joe, it was mentioned about, comments from the city, and they're gonna be talked about later after this is either approved or not approved. That's why I wanted to ask you, is there anything that needs to be looked into? I know the petitioner mentioned it, so I just want to make sure we're not missing anything.
Yeah, if the board would like, you could make a condition that any revisions to the plans that are currently before the board be brought back for administrative review and approval.
Sure. Is that okay with
That's fine.
you gentlemen? All right. So I believe, again, the petitioner has demonstrated with the prerequisites and the criteria for both the special permit and the variances. So we'll take two separate votes again, Joe, on this?
Yes.
Yep. All right, good. So I have a motion, please, on the special permit.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for a special permit for ZB 2014-027 for 81 Farmland Realty Trust at 81 Farmland Road. The special permit is to modify the use of the property from a church to a business and storage facility, from a church, business, and storage facility to a real estate office and storage facility, with the condition that any revisions made to the plan be brought back to the administration for approval.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Palia?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve with condition.
Mr. Peck?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Okay, been approved for the special permit. Now could I have a motion for the variance, please?
Through Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for a variance for ZB 2014-027 for 81 Farmland Realty Trust at 81 Farmland Road. And the variance is to add a second floor to an existing building with a church, with the following condition that any revisions to the plan be brought back for administrative approval.
Second.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Palia?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Peck?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve with condition.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Okay, gentlemen, been approved for both special permit and variance. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Good seeing you. Yep, thank you.
Bye, Mike.
He does a great job. Apparently, you don't have to. It's a good point. It's amazing the amount that he dumps in. It is.
You're gonna use that, or you're gonna use the thing again?
Okay, our next matter before us is ZB 2014-28, petitions of variance. The applicant is Soho Development LLC, property located at 1291 Middlesex Street. Petitions of variance. Petitioner seeks a variance to increase the curb cut width pursuant to section 6.11 of the zoning ordinance. Mr. Flood.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, representing Joseph and Mary Consalvo, the owners of the property. Soho Development LLC, the prospective purchaser. Jim McClutchy's with me. He's also the developer of the dorm. And Andy Projasic from Dana Perkins is our engineer. He's with us tonight, too. We're asking a variance to increase the width of the curb cut at Middlesex Street from 32 feet to 58 feet. We were before the planning board last Monday night, and we obtained site plan approval for a new driveway to service the dormitory known as the Riverview Suites at 141 Marginal Street, and also a special permit from the planning board to allow for short-term parking within the institutional zone. The plan for the driveway is a one-way driveway in, and when you get onto the Marginal Street site, there's a card reader, so you have to be a resident in the dorm to get in. The exit will be the same. You can go out the other side of Marginal Street, or you can come in the other side of Marginal Street. There's a card reader there. In addition, there, as the plan shows, there's a turnaround for vehicles that don't have the card to get in, and there are 8 short-term parking spaces located on the site. They will be marked 15-minute parking only. The purpose of that is to allow for students to be picked up, dropped off, food being delivered by some delivery company, something like that, so someone can park there for short-term, go in, deliver, and come back out. We only received 2 comments when we submitted to the planning board. One was from the fire department as to the width of the driveway. We had it at 1250, and I think on your original plan it was 1250, but we did submit the new plan that shows the 18-foot width. The fire department wanted 18 feet. And the other was from the traffic engineer, who wanted us to realign the driveway to be directly across from Livingston Street, which we did do. So we did meet all of those comments. We're asking for this additional curb cut so that fire trucks can get in there. That was the purpose of this driveway, for emergency vehicles, and I don't think it's going to differ from the intentions of zoning. It's for a safety purpose, and I'd ask that this board grant this requested variance. We're here to answer any questions. And I don't think, Joe, there are any comments from any conditions from the planning board. I don't think. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't recall any.
I don't think there are any conditions from the planning board.
So did you call the fire department during that little thing there? Emergency vehicles, and they started right off? Okay. All right. Well, I know you've been to the planning board quite a few times, and so all we're here for is just the curb cut.
Right.
Just to increase it, yep. Okay.
15-foot radius on either side, just so that fire trucks can come in off Middlesex Street.
And the property itself, is it going to be owned by the college, or?
Going to be no, the college leases it.
Okay.
College leases the property. It pays taxes, which is good for the city. We did go in to the planning board. The university asked for some additional beds, so we did obtain approval to increase the size of the dorm by 60 residential units, and now there'll be 809 beds in the building.
So as far as plowing and all that other stuff, is that maintained by Soho?
It's done by the university. They take over the whole. They lease the whole site. They maintain the grass. They maintain everything. They do everything.
Okay.
The police department patrols it.
Yep. Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. Flood?
Nope.
All right. Open it up to the public. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Open it up to the board. Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question, I guess. I wish my house was I'm sure it was a nice offer for the home that's going to be demolished for the driveway to go in. I wish it was maybe my condo that was there. I won't ask how much, but I'm sure it was a decent deal for the couple that lives there. But no, I took a ride by the site. It's difficult to get in there right now. If you go by the car wash, by that entrance, and you don't have a card reader, you can barely turn around there, and then on the other side, where the parking lot is being expanded. So it just makes sense to have an extra way to access the site.
One thing I want to mention, what you said is absolutely true. People can't find the site because you go on, look up 141 Marginal Street, and it takes you to the road that's blocked off. So now we'll have a new address on Middlesex Street, so parents that come up to visit their children, they'll know where to go now. That was one of the problems that the university wanted this done for.
Just, I guess, an unrelated question. Does the university eventually have an option to own the property? Was that part of the?
No.
No, so it's, okay. Just a curiosity, but, okay, no further questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Van?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a straightforward petition, and, it's to increase, for safety reasons, and so overall, this is a straightforward petition, and I support it.
Thank you. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I agree 100% that it's a major improvement to have presence on Middlesex Street and to understand how you're going to arrive here. And aligning it with Livingston Street makes a lot of sense. The site plan that was presented has a shaded area off to the right. Is that meant to be shaded?
Sidewalk, that's a sidewalk.
And it's as though the building is different. Is that a proposed new construction on the site?
Can I see where it is?
This arm here. It's not labeled.
Oh, yes, that's the addition to the building.
So that's, I mean, even more reason to do this because, now you're increasing that density back there, and to have presence on Middlesex Street is just a,
Yeah, that's the
important
additional
piece. Yep,
60 units, the additional beds.
makes a
The
lot of sense.
university had a demand for it, so they asked them
I'm
to
sure
do
they
it.
do have a demand for it. Okay, nice project. Thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the final piece to a tremendous project. Public safety in mind, university, the partnership with the developer and everything. It's a great site. Wish you the best of luck over there as always.
Thank you. Well, again, I think the petitioner has met all the criteria of the variance to be issued, and makes perfect sense from a public safety perspective. So with that said, could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2014-028, the variance for Soho Development LLC at 1291 Middlesex Street for a variance to increase the curb cut width.
Second?
Second the motion.
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Palia?
Approved.
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Thank you.
James Flagg's been approved.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, our next order of business is ZB 2014-29, the petitions of variance. The applicants are Robert and Rita Dowling. The property is located at 19 Easy Street. And the petition variance to add a garage to an existing structure without meeting dimensional requirements for side yard pursuant to section 5.1 of zoning ordinance. So, Mr. and Mrs. Dowling, I apologize, you had to wait almost 2.5 hours for your,
It's all right.
for your petition, but, no, I feel bad for you, so. All right, so I'll speak from personal visits. I visited the site last Friday and walked the site with Mr. Dowling and took a look at what his proposal was. And so with that said, Mr. Dowling, I want you to tell the members of the board what your intent is, please.
Okay. One thing about being last was I looked around, I knew it was my turn anyway, so. Yeah, the first thing I wanted to mention is it's not a garage we're looking for, it's really a two-car carport. And I realized that one of the things we sent was a picture of a garage, which obviously made it more confusing.
Right.
I found a picture of a carport which will look pretty much like what we have. If I could give you a copy of it,
Sure,
it might be
absolutely.
helpful.
Yep. Great, thank you. Great, great, thank you.
And I would say that the only difference probably from what we have is that rather than open in the back, we have a existing three-season porch, and that would be in the back part of that carport that you have there in front of you. The intention of it is as I said, as we start getting more towards our senior years, if you will, we're looking to make it a little bit easier. We've both lived in Lowell our whole life, and we'd like to obviously stay here. And I'm just trying to make it a little easier for me, particularly in the winter, with shoveling of snow and everything. So the carport would certainly help in that respect, cut down the amount of driveway, and also we both have a vehicle, and it cut down the amount of time it would takes to clean the car off every time whenever it snows. But at any rate, the purpose of it is to do that, to kind of reduce that, obviously with the thought of making sure that it didn't take away from the look of the house. We will follow the existing lines of the house. We won't be going beyond the existing footprint of the house as it is right now. And simply it's taking the extra width of 4 or 4.5 feet for 18-foot length of the driveway to get both of those cars underneath that, to be able to keep them out of the snow. And in the summer, obviously the sun gets very hot as well. And I think the original petition might have had a side wall, and if you notice on that one, there is no side wall, and our intention is not to have a side wall, is to have it open just like that on the front side. There'll be no doors and no side wall on the side either. And like I said, the only difference in the back would be the existing three-season porch would be there.
Anything else you'd like to add?
You want that? Nope, I think we're all set, thank you.
Okay. And the impact to the deck out back, the plan there is to, could you just go?
Yeah, oh
through that
yes,
again?
yeah, the existing deck that we have, the intent is to cover that as well, to make that three-season porch a little bit larger than what it is.
Yep, okay.
And it will be a three-season porch. There's no intention to make a room at all. There's only the two of us in the house now. All the children have grown up, and we've got 7 rooms in there now. That's 3.5 apiece. We don't need any more rooms.
Sure. Yep.
Just looking for.
And I think, if memory serves me right, on my visit, you had mentioned somebody from the city had been out to the site.
That's correct. The contract had talked with someone from I think it was the building department. Right, and went through everything we had, all the plans we'd provided for that. And they had made a couple of suggestions to those plans, and we've adjusted them to meet what they were looking for as well.
Yep, okay. Joe, did you receive anything from an inspector or anybody from?
No, Mr.
Building
Chairman.
Department? Okay, all right. All right, anything else you'd like to tell us?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, great.
We'll answer, obviously, any questions you have, certainly.
Sure. Well, can I open it up to the public? Anyone here like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Opposition? Opposition. Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Going to open it up to the board. Mike?
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of comments. I did go out to the site this weekend myself. Looked like you were doing some yard work, so I didn't want to
Yes.
disturb you or get
I thought I saw you
roped
there,
into
yes.
helping you out, but I didn't get to walk the site like the chairman did, but maybe he can go back and help with the yard work. But and I like the fact, I was confused because the petition had mentioned a carport, but you provided the drawing, so it was just, this is good to have the carport picture, and especially where it is going to be open along that fence, because you're basically putting the carport right up to the fence. But obviously, the neighbor next door isn't here to speak in favor or against the fact that so I'm assuming they're fine with what you're planning on doing there. So again, I don't have any questions. I understand the intent in doing it, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I will say, I did talk to the neighbor next to me, the one that would have the side of the, to him, and has no concern. Explained to him exactly what I was doing, and also talked to particularly the three neighbors across the street who would be looking at it. And they also said they had no concerns with it.
Actually, I think one of the neighbors across the street looks like they added on a garage themselves, probably, maybe diagonally across. There are a couple houses on the street that have something similar to what
Yes.
you're trying to do. So.
Right.
And I didn't want to say this, but I agree with the chairman. Just apologize for you having to sit through most of the meeting. It hasn't been easy, so.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing easy about being on Easy Street, right?
I know it.
Don't say anything. All right, thanks, Mike. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, no, this is a straightforward petition, and, you know, I think this won't degrade from the neighborhood or the character. It probably adds to the value of the home and to the neighborhood, so overall, I think this is a good project, and I wish you well.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to ask some questions about the structure itself. So you've chosen a carport instead of a garage.
Correct.
What's the reason for not going to a garage?
Well, I think a garage might have looked like we tried to shove something into something that was really not enough room for, basically. And so I definitely got away from that right away. I wasn't thinking about that. And it was just, as I said, the intent is just to keep the cars underneath. And I thought that the carport would solve that problem, as well as not look like it was shoehorned in there, if you will, and also make, in keeping with the lines of the house, making sure it followed those.
I agree with you 100% that because the setback is not being honored at all, that a garage would do that. And I think that I'd be interested in seeing a condition that the carport remains open on the side elevations, that it remains a carport.
No problem. Yep, no problem with me.
The structure itself, would that be a wood frame, or what are you envisioning?
Yeah,
for?
it is wood framed, yes. The intention is the front outside support. The contractor and I were discussing that, and the intent is probably to put a, and he'll talk to the planning department obviously about this, but the intent was probably to put that on like a cement footing, have it sit there, have it a metal pole, if you will, and both secured to the cement footing as well as to the roof itself, to give it support, and also to give it a little forbearance if somebody happened to hit that accidentally. And what we'll do is enclose that in like a wood box to make it look good.
That makes sense. Your setback is 0.45 feet, so roughly 5 inches or so?
Yes.
How do we build a foundation in that? So the foundation is probably going to go up to the property line? Is that the idea, or?
Well, there'll be no foundation on the carport.
I do believe we would be looking at a frost wall under the support columns anyway, it seems as though the setback for the structure, would that be the foundation? Is that, you just said you didn't believe there was a foundation, but I do believe you would be required to have a foundation to support the structural columns. And I think that I'd like to see the setback, because it's so close to the property line, that it would be for the foundation as well as the structure itself. So the 5-inch or .45 would be defining the setback for the foundation.
So it would be 5 inches, is what you're saying?
Well, .45, someone came up with
Yeah,
that
right,
on
yeah.
here. I'm not sure who did, but.
So you're saying to keep that, is that what you're saying?
Could keep that, but again, that would, in my opinion, also be the setback for the foundation. And that's kind of implied here with the.
Oh, I
approval.
get you, yes, okay.
Just so you know, so when you end up building this, you have a little bit of a.
Right,
juggling
exactly,
act
right.
there
So
to do
there'd be nothing on that other than the driveway that's there now.
Just so
Right.
you know.
Exactly, understood, yeah.
Good enough.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Just a quick question, Gary. How many years you been in the home?
Be 38 years next month.
38. Okay, thank you. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's a great question. I can certainly understand the need for a carport after this winter.
Oh, yes.
I'm contemplating the same process myself, because I don't have the space for a garage. No, it's a straightforward petition. I wish you the best of luck over there. You have a nice space, and 38 years in the city and moving forward.
Thank you.
Hopefully it's more of a sunroom next year than a carport.
I hope so, yes.
Okay, well, like I stated at the beginning, I took a ride out to the site, and this definitely helps, at least helps me a lot more. I mean, I had a good idea of what you wanted to do, but thank you for bringing this. And again, I think the members of the board totally understand the intent here. And Dennis's comment, I'm sure you'll keep that up in your beezer about what may or may not happen. Joe, something like that would come out of through the building permit process anyways, correct?
We can go through that during the building permit process with the applicant. Yes.
Yep. Okay. All right, and and the reason why I asked how many years you've been there, not that means you can come in here and you've lived in the same house for 100 years, but I think it lends a lot to, especially in your case, a couple coming in, has been in the same house for almost 40 years, and you just want to do a slight improvement to make your day-to-day activities there a little bit lesser, so I'm all in favor of the variance. Any other comments from members? Were there any conditions that you want to throw in?
I do, Mr. Chairman, I just would like to add a condition that the carport remain open on 2.5 sides as illustrated on the plan.
Are you fine with that?
I'm fine with that, yes.
Great. Okay, could I have a motion, please?
I'll do the best I can here. So I'd like to make a motion for a variance for Robert Downey Jr. at 19 Easy Street for a variance for side yard setback to construct a carport up to .45 feet from the side yard, with the following condition, that the carport remain open on 2.5 sides, as illustrated in the submitted plans.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Palia?
Approved with condition?
Mr. Peck?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved with condition.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with condition.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Dowling, you've been approved. Wish you
Thank
the
you.
best of luck.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next time you come in, you'll be an expert.
Yes. Thanks a lot. Have a
All
good
right,
night.
thank you. All right, next matter is other business, minutes for approval, June 9th, 2014. Any comments, corrections, questions? Hearing none, could I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 9, 2014.
Second?
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Palia?
Approved?
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve?
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Okay. Joe, next meeting, July, is it like 15th, 19th? It's like 3 weeks, right?
14th. Yes, it's
14th.
3 weeks, yep.
Yep. All right, so everybody gets 3 weeks to relax, do nothing. Do you have any handouts for tonight?
There's one item.
One item, okay, great. Must be a big item. Okay, anything else? Hearing none, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
So moved.